Envision 10,000 Spartan warriors arrayed in flawless formation, their bronze shields shimmering under the dawn's light, standing resolute against the mightiest Persian army ever gathered on Greek land. This isn't the renowned final stand at Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans met their fate with unparalleled bravery. This tale unfolds with the theme of vengeance. This is the clash of plateau where a whole Spartan army would demonstrate the valor of their fallen brothers. At Thermopylae, the sacrifice was not in vain. The events that followed would alter the trajectory of the legacy of Western civilization, endures eternally. Before we embark on this grand narrative of with a thirst for vengeance and a quest for glory, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, as we are on the brink of an exhilarating journey. Delve into one of history's pivotal battles that remains largely unknown to the masses. In the year 479 before the Common Era, 1 year a story of retribution. Time has elapsed since King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans made their iconic stand at the hot gates of Thermopylae. The Persian, the mighty Xerxes, once a god among men, finds himself humbled by the unforeseen resilience of the Greeks and the devastating loss of his formidable fleet at Salamis, prompting his retreat.
Prepare shields!
Returning to Asia in a state of defeat. The narrative continues beyond that point. Indeed, the most crucial chapter of the Greco-Persian Wars is only just unfolding. Before his departure from Greece, Xerxes executed one last strategic maneuver. He departed behind his most trusted general, a man named Mardonius, accompanied by an elite group, the formidable Persian military apparatus. This was not a retreat, it was a calculated repositioning. Mardonius led a distinguished contingent of almost 100,000 carefully selected Persian warriors, fighters backed by Hellenic allies who had yielded to Persian dominance. The objective was unmistakable. Complete what Xerxes had initiated and led Greece to its knees definitively. Yet the Greeks were far from willing to capitulate and yield. The offering at Thermop had stirred a deep, instinctual force within the essence of the Greek spirit. City-states that possessed after centuries of conflict, they unexpectedly discovered a shared mission that brought them together. Athens, lingering in the haze of embers emerging from the shadows of Persian rule, ready for a decisive confrontation. Sparta, fueled by a fierce longing to avenge their fallen king, rallies their complete armed forces' strength. The events that were on the verge of occurring would mark the most significant land battle in ancient Greece. The past. A confrontation of cultures that would decide if the illumination of the fate of democracy and philosophy hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of whether they would endure or be extinguished forever by the oppressive shadow of Persian despotism. The Persian Gambit. Mardonius's winter of schemes. General Mardonius stood out as an exceptional Persian commander. In contrast to his regal master Xerxes, nurtured in the opulent comforts of the Persian court, stood in stark contrast to Mardonius, a warrior forged in the crucible of battle.
A new age.
An experienced individual who grasped the complexities of both battle and governance. He understood that Greece's finest, the vulnerability, did not lie in the military. The situation was steeped in politics. The alliance of the Greeks was delicate, sustained by little more than collective anxiety and shared urgency. During the winter of 480-479 BCE, Mardonius engaged in a skillful strategy, mind games. He dispatched diplomatic missions to Athens, the most formidable Greek city-state following Sparta. His proposal was irresistibly alluring. By choosing to join the Persian Empire, Athens would receive a privileged status, permitting them to maintain their regions, their traditions, and even their municipal administration. Everything they needed to do was forsake their companions and embrace Persian dominance. The Persian envoys crafted an alluring narrative. What reason is there for Athens to endure such suffering and fight fiercely for Sparta, their age-old adversary? What compels them to gamble with annihilation when could they not achieve prosperity? The Persian Empire extended its vast reach from India to Egypt, standing as the largest and most affluent empire of its time the world has ever witnessed. Athens stands at a crossroads, poised to embrace a radiant future or risk descending into flames, alongside the remainder of Greece. Yet, the Athenians had gained valuable insights from Marathon and Salamis. They had experienced liberty, and they discovered it more precious than Persian gold. Their reply came quickly and unmistakable. Absolutely not. Furthermore, they found themselves evacuating their city once more, sending their women and children to safety, ready to stand and fight until the very end, if needed. This rejection determined Greece's destiny. A diplomatic solution or a peaceful resolution is simply unattainable. The destiny of Western civilization hinges on the strength of bronze and iron, fueled by valor, and expertise on a battlefield yet to be determined. Mardonius, having seen his diplomatic maneuver falter, initiated preparations for an all-out conflict. He commanded the most formidable military force of antiquity, the universe within his grasp. The essence of his power lay in the immortals, those of Xerxes, an elite guard, enhanced by Persian cavalry units that had seized control of half the familiar realm. These were not the conscripted throngs that had populated Xerxes' previous invasion force.
The victories on land and sea are
Those they were
simultaneous,
elite
Spartan.
warriors, the specialized
The scope
troops of their
it is
time.
immense.
However,
Persia will not
Mardonius
threaten us
possessed
from the
an
west
even
again.
more significant advantage.
Security we have fought
He
for.
had acquired knowledge from Persian
It is
errors.
finally ours.
He had delved into the
unity we
Greek
feel
triumphs
now
at
is
Marathon and
stronger than
Salamis.
any army.
He
Indeed,
grasped that the
this
renowned
bond
Greek
will
heavy
forge our
infantry,
future.
the illustrious hoplite phalanx, was almost unbeatable in the perfect landscape. His solution shone with a brilliance that lay in its simplicity. Select landscapes that transformed Greek advantages into vulnerabilities. As Mardonius the gathering storm, Greece unites. As he strategized in his winter quarters, an extraordinary event was unfolding throughout Greece. In an unprecedented moment in their past, the contentious Greek city-states were indeed coming together. Not yet finished, not by force or domination, but by the power of choice. The looming specter of Persian supremacy had ignited a collective Greek identity that surpassed regional conflicts. The summons echoed from Sparta, and the reply was nothing short of extraordinary. From each in a secluded corner of Greece, armies commenced their march toward a rendezvous point close to the city of Plateau. Athens dispatched 8,000 of their most esteemed hoplites, still seething with anger over the devastation of their city. Corinth provided 5,000 fighters. Megara dispatched 3,000. Even the smallest city-states, capable of mustering only a few hundred soldiers, contributed what they could. They had the potential to do so. Yet, at the core of this alliance lay Spartan steel. More than merely the 300 champions of Thermopylae, yet the complete power of the Spartan war machine. More than 10,000. The Spartan citizens advanced onto the battlefield, bolstered by the presence of thousands of their Helot auxiliaries. This was not a frantic final effort. The army stood resolute, embodying the essence of Spartan might and discipline. Led by Pausanias, the regent of Sparta and nephew of the fallen Leonidas. The gathering of the Greek army near Plateau was a scene that would have been unimaginable just a generation ago. Previously, Close to 80,000 men hailing from a multitude of cities, each with their own distinct dialects, varied expressions, bearing distinct emblems, yet bound together by a common goal. It was the most formidable hoplite army ever gathered. A grove adorned with bronze tips, poles reaching out to the edge of the world. Yet, mere figures do not secure victories. The true strength of this force lay in its elite group of Spartan warriors.
Go now.
They were individuals who cultivated the land during times of tranquility and took up arms when the situation demanded it. These individuals were skilled fighters, having honed their combat abilities since their early years. Those individuals could advance in flawless alignment, pivot, and rotate as a single entity, and sustain staying focused amidst the highest levels of stress. Their equipment was uniform and exceptional. Every Spartan bore an aspis, a shield with a bronze face measuring nearly 3 feet in diameter, with a diameter so substantial that only relentless training could enable one to handle it with proficiency. Their spears, known as doru, measured 9 feet in length, crafted from ash wood and tipped with iron, intended to extend your reach to counter any adversary's armament. Their bronze cuirasses and helmets were meticulously crafted by the most skilled artisans in Greece. What truly matters is that they battled as a unity among brothers. The Spartan phalanx was more than a mere military formation. It was a transcendent connection. Each man shielded not only himself, but also the brothers to his left. And indeed, their shields interlocked, forming an unyielding barrier of bronze. Their spears thrust forward in flawless formation, forming a barrier of lethal iron that no cavalry charge could breach. Infiltrate. The stage is prepared for a monumental clash in the annals of history. The stalemate, when titans clash. Before we dive into the intense clash of combat, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Should you find yourself in a battle in the company of any ancient army, would you opt for the disciplined Spartans, the innovative Athenians, or perhaps the adaptable Romans? Share your choice and the reasoning behind it. In the waning days of summer in 479 BCE, the two most formidable armies in Greek history confronted one another along the banks of the Aesopus River, close to Plateau. For almost a fortnight, they participated in a perilous match of chess, every commander poised, anticipating the other's misstep that could prove disastrous. Mardonius had expertly selected his position. The vast expanses of Boeotia were nothing short of ideal. An expansive terrain, open and level, devoid of any barriers to hinder his cavalry. The Persian cavalry was his trump card, swift and lethal, able to swift as a flash, vanishing before the lagging Greek infantry could reply. He positioned his troops with the skill of a seasoned strategist. The elite Persian infantry positioned at the center, flanked by allied Greek forces, accompanied by the cavalry stands, poised to seize upon any vulnerabilities. Oreanius, the Greek commander, confronted an insurmountable quandary. He was unable to launch an assault across the river onto terrain that preferred Persian cavalry. Yet he found himself unable to withdraw without seeming feeble and risking a collapse. Strengthen the delicate Greek coalition. He lingered, anticipating the impatience of the Persians, would compel Mardonius to err. What ensued was a fortnight of the most profound psychological tactics in the annals of ancient warfare. Each day, units of Persian cavalry would explore the Greek positions, executing swift strikes aimed at assessing Greek determine and eliminate those who lag behind. These were not mere coincidences. They existed meticulously crafted psychological strategies aimed at undermining Greek morale. The Persian horsemen exemplified unparalleled skill in their art. They would charge toward the Greek lines, releasing torrents of arrows flew, then swiftly retreated before the Greeks could react. They pursued relentlessly. Greek foraging parties seized supply convoys and created significant hardships for the enormous Hellenic forces. It was a slow unraveling, a series of small wounds meticulously crafted to inflict the maximum pain. Greeks driven to launch an assault, despite the odds stacked against them. The Greeks exhibited a remarkable blend of discipline and patience, a feat that could not have been achieved without the guiding hand of Spartan leadership. Following day on that day, they faced the harassment with unwavering resolve, holding their ground and resisting the temptation to act too soon. However, the weight of psychological pressure was immense. Envision yourself as a member of a vast assembly of 80,000 individuals. The army remained vigilant, acutely aware that enemy horsemen could charge at any moment, always in a state of uncertainty. The forthcoming arrow may well hit its target. The pivotal moment in this psychological battle arrived amidst a raid by the Persian cavalry. A contingent of Megarian hoplites, inhabitants of a lesser-known Greek city-state, discovered themselves isolated and enveloped by Persian cavalry under the leadership of a commander known as Mestius. The circumstances appeared dire. Numerous Greek infantry ensnared in the open by swift and agile horsemen. Yet, the Greeks had mastered the art of adaptation. A contingent of Athenian archers, accompanied by light infantry, surged forward to provide assistance. In the intense clash that ensued, Mestius himself was felled by an arrow. The passing of this renowned Persian commander struck a profound blow to the spirit of the Persians and a significant uplift for the Greeks' self-assurance. Yet, Mardonius was orchestrating a more extensive plan. As his cavalry maintained with the Greeks immobilized, he dispatched additional units to execute broad flanking maneuvers. Their objective. It wasn't the Greek army itself, but rather the vital connections that sustained them. The Greek forces were overtaken by the Persian cavalry. Logistics convoys and, most importantly, took command of the Gargaffian Spring, the sole provider of fresh water for the vast Greek army. It was a brilliant work of strategy. Contemplating. Deprived of sustenance and hydration, the mightiest army in Greek history would fall without a fight. Mardonius had accomplished what appeared unattainable. Compelling the Greeks found themselves in a precarious situation, all while he safeguarded his own troops from a direct clash. Pausanias encountered the night retreat. When everything unravels a chilling predicament, his army was succumbing to thirst, depleting their food supplies, and ensnared in a progressively dire situation. He was compelled to command a withdrawal to a fresh defensive stance, in proximity to Plataea, where one could discover fresh water and more advantageous defensive terrain. However, withdrawing with an 80,000-strong multinational force under the cover of darkness is one of the intricacies of ancient warfare's most complex maneuvers. It demands flawless synchronization, precise dialogue, and unwavering commitment. A solitary error can transform a systematic retreat into a disastrous path. The concept behind the plan was beautifully straightforward. The Greek center is set to relocate initially, retreating to the new location shrouded in the cloak of night. The citizens of Athens, the left flank, would advance, ensuring it stays connected with the center. At last, the Spartans positioned on the right flank would act as the protective barrier, guaranteeing that no Persian forces could disrupt regarding the withdrawal. What unfolded next was a lesson in how even the most meticulously crafted plans can unravel disastrously. Incorrect. The Greek center, formed from groups of smaller city-states, found myself lost in the shadows. Rather than halting at the specified location, they continued to advance, forming a perilous breach in the Greek formation. The citizens of Athens, in an effort to uphold the formation, we found ourselves distanced from both the center and the Spartans. Most troubling of all, the Spartans, known for their remarkable tenacity and unwavering resolve honor, declined to initiate their withdrawal until they were completely assured that the allies remained secure. This rendered them perilously vulnerable as the first light of dawn began to emerge over the arena of conflict. As the sun ascended on what would unfold into one of the most pivotal days in the West, as Mardonius surveyed the expanse of the battlefield, disbelief washed over him. The formidable Greek army seemed to be in complete retreat, fragmented and chaotic, apparently poised for annihilation. Following weeks of meticulous planning and with patience, the awaited victory seemed tantalizingly close. To Mardonius, it appeared as if the gods themselves had intervened. The Greeks, who had thwarted the Persian strategy, which had been in place for months, seemed to be unraveling all on its own. Their orderly ranks were shattered, their divisions dispersed over vast stretches of land. It was the moment he had long anticipated, the opportunity to conclude the conflict with a single decisive action. Crucial strike. Mardonius acted without a moment's pause, delivering the command that would determine his destiny. He led his distinguished Persian infantry, the elite of his forces, to surge across the Asopus River in pursuit of what he was thought to be a withdrawing foe. It was a choice made amidst uncertainty and hopeful assumptions, and this would come to be recognized as one of the most significant military blunders of ancient times. The Persian infantry, brimming with confidence in their overwhelming numbers, anticipated a straightforward victory, triumph against a shattered foe, advanced with fervor. These were seasoned warriors who had vanquished realms, and the scent of triumph lingered around them. They were completely unaware. They were stepping into a snare that would shatter the Persian Empire's aspirations of conquering Europe. What Mardonius failed to do, the Spartans stand, bronze versus wicker. What became clear was that the Spartans were not retreating in fear. They were executing a strategic maneuver. They were adjusting their stance, yet remained fully prepared for battle. Upon Panya's gaze, she beheld at the onset of the Persian charge, he chose a path that would resonate throughout the ages. Rather than persisting in the retreat, he commanded his Spartans to pivot and confront the foe. In just a few minutes, 10,000 Spartan warriors and their Tegean allies formed the classic hoplite phalanx. This was the culmination of everything they had ever worked for. Since the time 7 Spartan boys had prepared for this very moment, they had rehearsed the motions until they could perform them effortlessly, even in slumber. They had come to think as a single entity, moving in unison. Solitary, lethal force. The sight of the Spartan phalanxes in the complete battle formation stood as one of the most fearsome sights of the ancient era. Envision a barrier adorned with bronze shields extending for hundreds of yards. Every shield stood in flawless alignment with its neighbor. Above the shields, a forest of 9-foot spears thrust forward, the iron of theirs glistening facets illuminated by the dawn's light. Behind the bronze faceplates of their helmets, the eyes of the world's most formidable warriors. Fierce fighters ignited by an unquenchable thirst for retribution. This extended beyond mere military strategies or the acquisition of territory. This held a personal significance. These valiant fighters were the brothers, sons, and comrades of those who fell at Thermopylae. They dedicated a year to absorbing tales of Leonidas's valiant stand, of how 300 the Spartans stood resolute against the might of the entire Persian army. At this moment, they found themselves with the opportunity to complete the mission their fallen brothers had begun. The Persians, brimming with confidence, raised their voices in a battle cry, wept, collided with the Spartan line like a surge crashing against a precipice. What is it? The ensuing events unfolded as a clash of two entirely distinct military ideologies. The Persians engaged in battle as individuals, courageous and adept, yet depending on their own abilities and the turmoil of conflict. The Spartans battled with the precision and efficiency of a well-oiled machine, every individual fulfilling his role in a lethal ballet of demise. The Persian infantry were far from being cowards or feeble souls. They were exceptional soldiers who had triumphed over extensive lands for the most magnificent empire in existence. However, they were prepared and skilled for an entirely different form of combat. Their shields were crafted from wicker and leather. These items are lightweight and agile, yet they cannot compete with the might of a Spartan. Bronze. Their spears were crafted to be shorter, optimized for close combat instead of long-range engagements. The lethal prowess of the Spartan. Doru. Faced with a matching force of adversaries, the Persian equipment and tactics may have shown effectiveness, yet they were not contending with comparable numbers or training levels. Those individuals were assaulting a structure that had been honed through ages, protected by individuals who had dedicated their whole existence, readying myself for this very instant. The combat was utterly savage. The Persians, acutely aware of their disadvantage, made fervent attempts to disrupt the Spartan formation. With bare hands, they lunged for the long spears, attempting to snap them or wrest them from the grasp of their wielders. Those individuals hurled themselves at the bronze shield, searching for any chink or vulnerability in the Spartan barrier. Yet the Spartan line endured for what felt like an eternity, although it was likely just a few moments. The two forces were ensnared in a brutal, relentless struggle. Men perished by the dozens on both sides the flanks, yet the Spartan formation stood resolute. Their shields of bronze intertwined seamlessly. Their spears lunged and retreated in flawless harmony. It was murder reimagined as artistry. Death approached with an exactness that was almost calculated. The demise of a commander. When authority crumbles in the realm of ancient warfare, the demise of a commanding general could swiftly turn the tides from triumph to disaster. Guides did not lead from the back. They battled on the front lines, motivating their troops through their own actions. Mardonius grasped this principle, and he had placed himself at the forefront of the Persian spear, battling from mounted at the forefront of his distinguished infantry. This bravery that ultimately sealed his fate. Mounted on his striking white warhorse, Mardonius stood out unmistakably on the arena of conflict. He battled with the valor of a legendary figure from ancient tales, directly confronting his foes. Champions, uniting his comrades with both speech and action. However, his prominence rendered him a target, and Spartan warriors were rigorously trained to recognize and eradicate foes. Guides. The precise circumstances surrounding Mardonius's demise remain obscured by the passage of time, yet the repercussions were swift and catastrophic. In an instant, the Persian general was at the forefront, rallying his forces against the Spartan warriors. Line. The next moment, he found himself tumbling from his horse, felled by a Spartan spear or blade. With their charismatic leader gone, the Persian resolve to battle simply disappeared. In ancient times, armies were united by the bonds of personal loyalty to their leaders, as much by adherence to principles or love for their country. Upon the downfall of Mardonius, the front lines started to falter. These formidable soldiers, who had been advancing relentlessly against the Spartan formation, unexpectedly thrust into chaos, found themselves without a leader amidst the fiercest battle they had ever encountered. Panic in battle spreads like wildfire, a relentless force that consumes all in its path. As news of Mardonius's death rippled through the Persian ranks, igniting a spark of individual courage, method of shared fear. The methodical assault morphed into a frantic fight for existence. Persian soldiers who had been desperately attempting to breach the Spartan line just moments earlier were now frantically seeking a way to flee from it. The Spartans, recognizing the fear in their adversaries, capitalized on the moment with unyielding precision. The phalanx that had been defensive transformed into an aggressive force, advancing relentlessly like an unstoppable bronze tide. Their training equipped them to uphold their formation while progressing, a feat that would have been unachievable for those lacking disciplined soldiers. What once was a struggle transformed into a slaughter. With their ranks shattered and their leader fallen, the Persian soldiers retreated in disarray toward their stronghold. Yet fleeing from Spartan hoplites was virtually unattainable. Burdened by gear and disheartened by loss, numerous Persian warriors fell before they could find refuge. Across the expanse of the battlefield, the Athenians were experiencing a significant moment of victory. They were involved in a distinct, yet an equally fierce struggle against the Greek allies of Persia, particularly the Thebans who had opted to align with the invaders. Upon hearing of the Persian collapse, the Athenians intensified their efforts. They persevered and ultimately penetrated their adversaries' defenses as well. The aftermath of the Persian collapse unfolded in a series of significant events. The assault on the encampment, retribution awakened. The battle line represented a departure from all that had come before in Greek warfare. Generally, in ancient conflicts, the conclusion often came when one faction succumbed to fear and retreated, resulting in a relatively restrained outcome. Chase. Yet this was unlike anything else. This transcended mere military triumph. It centered on endurance, retribution, and the essential inquiry of whether Greek civilization would persist. The whole Greek army, now united and triumphant, gathered at the fortified encampment of the Persians. This was not merely a military facility, a stronghold constructed to safeguard the elite of the Persian army and their amassed riches amassed through countless victories. The camp was encircled by timber palisades, guarded by the remnants of Mardonius's forces and thousands of support personnel and camp followers from Persia. Here are the constraints of Spartan training became clear. Spartans excelled in open-field combat, expertly trained to engage in strategic formation to counter enemy infantry. However, siege warfare necessitated varied abilities, diverse strategies, and distinct gear. The timbered barriers of the Persian camp stood like the gates of Troy, impervious to the immediate threat posed by Spartan spears. However, the Greek army comprised more than just Spartans. The Athenians, seasoned warriors in the realm of urban warfare and siege operations, they spearheaded the charge against the camp. They possessed expertise in dismantling fortifications and orchestrating intricate assaults on fortified locations. As the Spartans held the line, they thwarted any Persian In their efforts to break free, the Athenians orchestrated the definitive attack. The assault on the Persian encampment was short-lived yet profoundly impactful. Disheartened by the loss of their general and the disintegration of their primary forces, the Persian defenders offered only resistance to tokens. As the Athenians breached the wooden gates, what ensued was more a clash of wills than a traditional battle, more than a methodical eradication of opposing forces. The massacre was ghastly, even by time-honored benchmarks. Confined within their own defenses, unable to shift or adapt, the remaining Persian forces faced a systematic annihilation, whether they chose to advance or withdraw. Of the almost 100,000 men led by Mardonius into Boeotia, yet only a minuscule portion successfully broke free. The Persian army destined to finalize the conquest of Greece lay in ruins. Yet the real importance of the triumph transcended simple military statistics. The Persian camp held wonders beyond comprehension, riches amassed through decades of triumph over the vast expanse of the known realm. Gold, gleaming silver, exquisite precious stones, rare exotic spices, luxurious silk, and captivating artwork from a myriad of different societies. The Greek soldiers, a considerable number of whom were engaged in farming and craftsmanship during times of peace, were enveloped by a level of affluence that their cities had not witnessed in countless generations. Yet even more precious than Persian gold was the significance of the victory itself.